the wind behind him.
A daemi. A daemi. The man who believes that homosexuals should be sent to prison in this world and hell in the next. A daemi's not the answer to anything.
Conclave, the Oscar-nominated film about the Catholic Church. I went in with a lot of optimism because I loved Edward Berger's last film, All Quiet on the Western Front, the 2022 Netflix film that really, really was fantastically done from the original material. And I went into this one going, listen, I know Hollywood. They only embrace things from a certain perspective. They're not fans of religion. They're going to attack the Catholic Church. It's going to be about some sort of scandal that they buried and those kinds of things. Before I get into this, let me just tell you, it's way worse than I thought. This film is despicable, disgusting, and I was so let down.
The Pope is dead. The throne is vacant.
So yeah, that's the premise of Conclave. The Pope dies, and we look to Ralph Fiennes as Cardinal Lawrence, who's going to be the one that's coordinating this big coming together of the cardinals to select the Pope. And many of us have seen this happen during our lifetime. We were familiar with the white smoke. We know what black smoke means. We understood there's a lot of politicking and all sorts of things that are going on behind the scenes. What I didn't know was this was based on a book, and it comes up with a whole new litany of conspiracy theories and things that are going on behind the scenes to paint the Catholic Church, not in horrible light, in ridiculously tragic, corrupt, racist, prejudiced, bigoted. It is a propaganda piece for some of the most low-lying fruit from left-wing politics. So first and foremost, let me just say, the film is beautifully done. Everything about the film is magnificent. It's well acted. It's well edited. The music is great. Some of the cinematography. Look at the color palette and changes. I mean, there's a ton of great things here to love. Everyone should be able to clearly understand why this film has been nominated, why Ralph Fiennes himself will have that best Oscar nod. And really, I got to be honest, I was kind of underwhelmed by his performance for at least half, if not 2/3 of the way before he finally gets some of those big dramatic pieces to work through and that kind of thing. The supporting cast is also big names. Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow kind of headline two other Cardinals. One here you see is Stanley Tucci, who's a really far left advocate of the church. Like, he speaks in like political jargon about progressivism and the things that they have fought for be taken away by these other Cardinals. And what you have is this series of back and forth moments between votes where he's gathering information. The group is gathering information about different cardinals. The first vote, of course, involves bringing forth this black pope. And of course, there's a prejudiced, bigoted. Yeah, his name starts with a T also. Tedesco is the conservative candidate for the high C. And he is bigoted, prejudiced, loud, angry, kind of all the stereotypes of the other big T named figure in politics, right? And the left-wing guy, he says, I don't want to do it, wishy-washy thing. But behind the scenes, he's just ravaged and obsessed and just arrogant. And it stays that way as the vote kind of moves away from him and then kind of comes back in focus for Lawrence, who did legitimately not only he wanted to resign as the dean here, let alone actually pursue this. And of course, he's thrust into the limelight. And the story kind of unpacks all of that. So as each candidate for Pope comes up, there's a conspiracy theory and a reason why they can't be there. The Black Pope, he's got this corruption issue that we're going to get into more. We have the John Lithgow Cardinal. He has something. And we get into the Stanley Tucci one. And even Lawrence himself is never called to the carpet. And I found it was a red flag very early on in the film for me.
And therefore no need for faith.
This was just the worst moment of the movie. I was a huge red flag for me. And then, of course, there's a callback to this we're going to get to. But Lawrence is giving the homily in the absence of the late Pope here. And he has this sort of incredible misinterpretation, abuse of actual scripture, talking about Jesus Christ at the cross. He has a comment about and a commentary on a scripture about looking to God. Why have you forsaken me? Now, this is when God turns away from Christ because he is covered in the sins of the world. But that is not the context. The context is completely twisted and warped to fit Lawrence's agenda here about certainties. And certainties is the enemy of tolerance. That's right, tolerance. And if there was only certainty and no doubt, there would be no need for faith. It was like, okay, hold on, wait. That's first off, that's not at all what this scripture is about. And there is an entire foundation of Christianity built on the certainty of God's words and these principles. And I'm like, okay, what is happening here? Why are we doing this? And of course, I'm still very naive at this point in my viewership. Like I'm thinking, well, it's still going to be about the stereotypical corruptions of the Catholic Church. But oh, no, 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 no. That is not what we're doing here. We are going to go down the rabbit hole with the Black Pope. We're going to undermine the Black Pope, not because of some of the racism that he's facing. No, no, no. We are going to have it that there is a random nun that is there. And there's this scene that makes no sense, really, in the grand scheme of things. And they unpack it that he's not only had an affair, no, she's pregnant and had the kid. Neither one of them should be in their current roles, let alone he's been removed from his priesthood. But no, all of that's been covered up. Lawrence says, well, you'll never be pope, but there's no like, hey, you can't be bishop, you can't be priest. It's all just sort of like, oh, we're just not going to talk about all that, right? Then you get to John Lithgow's cardinal, and oh no, it's a simony charge. He's this corrupt, bought and paid for. He's actually the guy that brought in this black nun. Why? Oh, because the late Pope told him to. So the layers and layers keep stacking and stacking and stacking. And in the middle of all of this, there's this other random cardinal that no one knew about, right? There's this cardinal from Spain, I believe. I know he's Hispanic. And he's been ministering to the worst places in the world, in Africa, in Afghanistan, these war-torn nations. He's this, stereotypical of just heartfelt giving, pure innocence. And he gets a vote. And you're like, who would have voted for him? He says he votes for Lawrence, but then he gets 2 votes. Then he gets 4 votes and 8 votes. The movie keeps progressing, and they're trying to figure out how to play politics and manipulate everything. And then the story gets even more political, believe it or not.
And you know it. If you want to defeat Tedesco...
This is a conclave, Aldo. It's not a war.
It is a war.
Yes, it is a war. He starts going through the progressive art. It's literally, look, these people are not as smart as they think they are. And you have to be aware of the fact that none of this is by accident. It's not. Even if Edward Berger wants to pretend that it's based on the book and this is what they did and whatever, fine. But they purposely chose to the book. They chose these different little nuances and avenues and pieces that are in there in the climate of the culture right now. And this was released right before the election. It is not a coincidence. And this is why the Oscars will love this. They will love this clip. They will love this movie because it has all these political overtones, right? About you can't go backwards. We can't have this conservative guy come in and undo all these lefty things that we do. And we can't have this black pope. We can't have... No. Wait for it. All right. So that is the scene of a terrorist attack. That's right. A suicide bombing somehow went off. Kid you not. We're in Vatican City. We are at the Vatican. Okay, so that happens. And now they're like, we have to rally around somebody. Amongst the conversations, they're discussing some things. You in the audience, you're thinking it's going to be Lawrence. He's going to have to step up. This whole thing is about the reluctant hero, the reluctant cardinal. But no, that's not what we're going to do here. The Spanish cardinal that no one knows anything about, that was put in by the previous dead pope, he steps forward with this whole anti-war. What do you know about war? You don't know anything about war because the other guy goes on an anti-Muslim rant. And they all rally around and they put forth this Hispanic cardinal to be pope. And you're like, all right, well, that's a little on the nose with our Argentinian pope. But then there's another twist. I kid you not. There's another twist. There's more politics, more propaganda to make this even more despicable, because he too has scandal. Do you know what his scandal is, folks? Do you want to take a wild guess? What is the deal with that pope? He is not really a he. He's a he, she. He's intersex. He presents as male, has lived that male, but he had gone. The Pope had helped him go to a clinic to have his uterus removed. He didn't know about it at the time. He had an appendix taken out, allegedly, has a uterus. They find that out after he becomes Pope, and we don't do anything. The movie just closes. This movie is so cowardice that it didn't, if it wants to pretend it's based on real life and real moments and real people, then it should name those names and tell us what's really going on. And the fact that it doesn't do that just shows it's just throwing mud against the wall for politics, for propaganda. This is how things operate. It doesn't matter. It's all disparaging nonsense. And if it is not, and there's any truth to this, then we should see lawsuits. We should know. We should see something. Like, it's just, it is so disgustingly biased and agenda. I heard one of the reviewers that is pretty popular on the internet talk about how this is a thriller and they loved it. I found this movie just, it was begrudging. Oh, so it took so much out of me to continue to carry on, because you could just see the layers unpacking of the agenda. But this is not like as subtle as some people. I just don't think they understood. I really don't. I don't think they could see, because it's so beautifully done. The performances are so good, so beautifully edited or whatever. But no, I found this movie to be awful, unbearable, couldn't handle it, hated it. To make it worse, I don't understand the nomination for Isabella Rossellini as the best supporting actress. She may have 10 minutes. And it is completely there's no real big emotional thing. She walks in and basically has a few lines, confirms she's completely irrelevant to. I have no idea. We just don't have good supporting actresses anymore, I guess. Most overrated nomination. I mean, I guess Angela Bassett's in The Wakanda Forever was probably the most overrated. I was just absolutely just awful. Talk about a token situation of giving one a gift of an award. This is just about as bad. Lord help us if she wins. But the movie is full of good things as far as how a movie is made, and Edward Berger knows how to craft a good movie, but it is not a movie that I can remotely tell you is worth your time. It is reducing all of the Cardinals in the room. First off, I don't understand how the new guy on the scene in Kabul, this new, why would he even be getting votes over all these other Cardinals? Why is there's no conversation, all being controlled? There's so much that must be just taken with a grain of salt in order for it to work. Yeah. So, as a film, if you're reviewing the film as a critic, it's a solid film, right? It has the elements, it has a story, it has story arcs and whatever. But you got to hold your nose to get through the politics. You got to hold your nose to get through the propaganda. You have to really look past the contrivances and the motivation of the reason this film even exists. It's gross. So if I had to rank the movie, I'd rank it pretty high, maybe 3.5 out of 5. Very solid, probably closer to a 4. But it's also like 0 watch. I can't do it. I can't watch movies this laced with agenda. But that's why it's getting a nomination. That's why it's there, because this is exactly what they are and what they want. They hate religion. They hate the Catholic Church. They hate all of this traditionalism. And it's only there if we can hijack it and move it in a progressive way. And anyone that does that, we have no problem just demeaning them and trying to dig up scandals on them or trying to lie about them. And then And then the fact that it's sort of like rooted in quasi real life. Is it really or not? We don't know. So there's another one, Amelia Perez, which is like a musical Mexican trans movie. I can't do it. I can't do it. There's no way. I've heard too many people that I trust, like, I mean, destroy this movie, how bad it is. And they put a dude that is a woman up as the best actor. I hope they win. I really do. Make it a laughing stock because that's what it is. It's absolute. You're not making a movie for the sake of a movie. You're just doing it for agenda and propaganda or whatever. So anyway, that's my take on Conclave. I know many people love this movie. I'm sure you may like this movie, but that's my take on it. I'd love to hear more from you in the comments. Thanks for watching, everybody. I am Pops.